I sold my panties on the dark web. I didn't expect it would make me pregnant. You probably think I'm insane, but I was so desperate for money. I had no way to pay bills other than part-time jobs which paid almost no money. I just never could have guessed the horrifying reality that I had just gotten myself into when I opened that disturbing website. My roommate originally suggested getting a sugar daddy, since that was what she did to get money. I tried it, but it was really horrible. Going to dinner with a 60-year-old married man who kept trying to put his hand inside my pants isn't exactly something I could bear, no matter how desperate I was for money. But it was obvious that sexual acts made the most money, so after a small bit of searching around online, I found that many creepy men were extremely interested in feet pictures. That was how I first started making my money. It was decent money, but I still wanted more. It was kind of satisfying knowing that these creepy men were wasting their money on me. But that's when I came up with the worst idea ever, to sell my panties online. At first, business was slow. Apparently, people find it embarrassing being seen ordering panties to their doorstep. I had told my roommate about my new business, who had an incredible suggestion for me, the dark web. It was perfect, full of weirdo creeps that can buy stuff for their fetishes completely anonymously. My roommate was kind of a geek, so helped me set up everything I needed. She let me use her old laptop for it, and before long I started making more money than I ever had before. Competition was surprisingly high on the panty market, or whatever you want to call it. People were apparently extremely sick and disturbing on the dark web, and so had some really creepy fetishes. I had a lot of requests, specifically for soiled ones. Extremely disgusting, but I went along with it. I was making thousands of dollars a month at this point, which was amazing for a broke college student. I wish I'd just taken my earnings and quit then. Maybe I could have saved myself. It all changed when I received a message from the name, Secret Seducer 3. He was willing to pay $100,000, which for whatever reason, I didn't think was strange at the time. When you're as desperate as I was, you don't notice the red flags, even if they're right in front of your face. The only catch was he wanted bloody panties. I remember finding it slightly weird, but I was so overwhelmed and overjoyed by the price that he was offering that I was beyond desperate to do so. And so I did the unthinkable. I sent him them, not knowing that would be the biggest mistake of my life. A week went by and I noticed that my period seemed to only be getting heavier and heavier. I didn't think much of it at first. I really wish that I had. My period had lasted around a month, which I was beginning to think was strange. Cramps seemed to get worse and worse every day. So I went to a doctor, and strangely she didn't seem to think that there was anything wrong with me. In the most monotone and robotic voice, I remember her saying, "Just take these painkillers, they'll ease the pain. You must have just forgotten to record your cycle." But this didn't change a thing. I bled every day for a good 5 months, however. It was minimum bleeding, and for some bizarre reason I decided to take the doctor's advice for it. On the last day of October, I woke up one morning with stomach pains like no other. I dragged myself out of bed into my bathroom where I took a painkiller. That's when I noticed the floor. It was smeared with something, red and sticky. As I went back to my bedroom, to my horror, the whole bed was covered in a pool of dark, thick blood. It leaked over the edges and onto the cream carpet. It looked like the scene where a murder had taken place. I must have started screaming because Jessica ran in screaming also. "Holy crap, we need to get you to a hospital, quick!" Jessica panicked, so we jumped in her car and off we went. The painkillers were doing nothing, and the pain in my stomach was like no other. It was as though my intestines were on fire and burning a deep hole into the gut of my stomach. Beads of sweat ran down my forehead. My hands were clammy and a wave of nausea hit me. Once I was rushed in, the nurses must have sedated me. Everything was a blur, it happened so quickly. One minute I was howling in agony, the next, everything went pitch dark. I don't know how long I was asleep for, but I remember waking up completely dazed and unaware. I was in a hospital bed surrounded by blue curtains with no doctors around that I could see. That was until I saw him. There was a man in a long black trench coat facing towards me, lying on the bed. "It's good to finally meet you," he muttered as he walked across the room. I jolted in shock and sat up in my bed. His deep laugh made my stomach feel uneasy, as if I'd throw up at any second. There was a strange, unsettling aspect to him. He had an unsettling grin on his face, revealing shark-like teeth, and he was extremely tall. There was something disgustingly attractive about him, and I hated it. "Have you finished checking me out?" His asked. His smooth, deep voice sounded like discordant music to my ears. I disregarded his comment. "Do I know you?" I quietly whispered. His face lit up as though he had been waiting for me to ask that very question for years. He reached into his pocket, presenting a pair of lace-white panties that were ruined by blood. My blood. I gaped in horror. I tried to reach over and snatch them out of his grasp, but it was no use. He laughed again at my pointless attempt. He brought them to his nose, inhaling the smell like some disgusting animal. He let out a relaxed sigh as though he'd come home from school to smell a freshly baked pie. My fear was replaced by pure rage and regret. "Who are you? And why the hell are you messing with my life?" I yelled. No answer. "Are you the one behind all of this?" I cried. "Behind all of what, my dear?" he asked with a fake sincerity. This little freak was enjoying this too much. "Stop acting dumb," I snapped. His devious smile dropped to a stone-cold, expressionless one. "I don't appreciate your attitude, my dear," he berated. "I'm not your dear. Stop it!" I cried, overcome with fear. I had no idea who this man was, but I knew he was the reason for all this. "I paid for you, didn't I? That doesn't mean you own me. Who even are you? You'll understand when the time is right." His tone became lighter, jovial, almost as he walked backwards out of the room behind the curtain. I heard his terrifying footsteps as he walked away down the corridor, and doctors rushed past him into the room. "Do not worry, ma'am. We've run several tests to confirm that the unexplainable bleeding is simply caused by cervical changes," the doctor said reassuringly. "Cervical changes? But There was so much blood, and who the hell was that man? I started to panic. The doctor and Jessica exchanged confused looks. You're such a drama queen. There was a tiny bit of blood on the bed and you were yelling in pain, that's all there is to it, Jessica said. Her face exactly mirrored the gynecologist's, expressionless. Her voice sounded almost robotic. How could she say that there was only a tiny bit of blood? It was everywhere, seeping over the bed, and the man was right in front of me. I just saw him. Now. I understand that seeing the blood must have frightened you, the doctor continued, interrupting my confused thoughts. But do not worry. The two of you are completely healthy, the doctor continued. There was a giant smile plastered on her face, similar to that of the strange man that was just in my room. The two of us? I asked. The nurse scribbled something down in her pad and then turned her focus back to me. Ma'am, are you aware that you are currently pregnant?